everyone, welcome to another exciting episode of Dayspring Discussions. I'm your host, Sean McGahee, and this is a show we talk about movies, TV, sci-fi, fantasy, comic books. If you geek out about it, we're going to talk about it. You can listen to Dayspring Discussions on iTunes, YouTube, Podomatic, and Patreon, and contact Dayspring Discussions on the Facebook group, Twitter, and dayspringdiscussions at gmail.com. Happy Thursday, guys. It is almost here. Christmas is almost upon us. Couple shopping days left. I finished up my shopping and wrapping yesterday, so I am all set to go. But then, of course, something happened today, which I'll talk about in a few minutes, that realized I have one more present to give. So I'm going to do that here in a minute. But I really don't have a lot of news for you today, guys. There's a couple things left in my show notes that I could talk about, but really, they weren't really interesting in my opinion. So what I'm going to do is, you know how Thursdays I like to give comic book reviews? That's what I'm going to do today. It might be a little shorter show. It might be a little longer show, depending on how long I ramble on. But in any event, I'm just going to talk about my reviews and recommendations for this week's comics that came out. Because honestly, I thought there were quite a few good ones that came out this week. So I'm going to talk about that. Next week, I don't know as far as how the show is going to go. Like I said, I like to give you 3 episodes a week. It is a holiday, which means there's not a lot of news going on. But tomorrow, Netflix premieres Bright, which I talked about yesterday. I'm going to try to watch it this weekend. So probably next week, I'll start off with a review of that. Whether I have enough news to give you 3 episodes next week, I'm not quite sure. I'll definitely do some comic reviews and all that, but we'll see how it goes. I'll try to get a couple shows out next week, but if not, we'll, do it as it comes. Nevertheless, let's get on with the show. So like I said, there were quite a few good comics came out this week that I wanted to talk about, and really, let's start off with one that was kind of interesting, which is X-Men Grand Design number 1. So basically what this is kind of a recap, looks like, of the X-Men by Ed Piskor. Is that his name? Piskor? That sounds like a horrible name. Any event, Ed here gives us a recap in issue number 1 of pretty much the beginning of the X-Men. We start with a young Charles Xavier, him discovering his powers, and how he formed the X-Men, how Scott Summers, Jean Grey, Iceman, Angel, Beast, how they formed the original X-Men team. It goes into quite a bit of detail. I can see this being something that's going to last, could be, 30 issues really, if you're going through this detailed history of the X-Men. Now, as far as reading it, it's not very flowy, I guess you could say. It's more like you're telling a tale or a fable or something like that, but not really story worthy. You're just kind of skimming over it. And there's a lot of X-Men history, so I get it why it could be quite a few issues. But this, as an X-Men fan, I found interesting. Of course, those who don't know, this show is named after an X-Men reference, so anything X-Men I like to mention. So I wanted to start off with this because I think if you want to get to know the X-Men a little better, it's a good place to start. So go check that out, X-Men Grand Design number 1. Next up on the list, for those of you in the holiday spirit, Hellboy, Krampus, I know I said that wrong, by Mike Mignola. He gives us a Hellboy holiday special. I don't know if he's done this in the past with Hellboy, but it was pretty much inevitable that Hellboy meet up with Krampus. I mean, it just fits together. So this year he gave us Hellboy versus Krampus in this special. It was fun. It was fun to see Hellboy go up against Krampus, and there wasn't much to it really, but given the character and hopefully what we're going to see with him in the next year with an upcoming film and all that, we're going to get something good. So go check out Hellboy by Mike Mignola. Very interesting read. Good for the holiday spirit. All right, next up, The Thing and Human Torch, Fate of the Four, Part 1. So for those of you who know, Disney has bought 20th Century Fox, which means we're going to get the X-Men and the Fantastic Four into the MCU. I hope this is a resurgence of not only the Fantastic Four in comic books, but then we'll also get a resurgence in movies as well. I like the Fantastic Four. I read them as a kid. I've gone through a phase where I picked up everything Fantastic Four I could from my local library and read through it. Like a lot of characters, though, they don't get the best treatment. It all depends on who's writing them. They've kind of fallen out in the last couple of years. Some say it has to do with the fact that 20th Century Fox had the movie rights, so Marvel's a little bitter about that. I don't know. I don't care, but I want to see the Fantastic Four make a resurgence. These are great characters. They're Marvel's first family. When Stan Lee was about to leave Marvel and comic books altogether, his wife told him, just write a book that you want to read. Just write a book. And what he wrote was Fantastic Four. That jump-started the entire Marvel universe. Fantastic Four is so important to the Marvel universe. They need a resurgence. They're great characters. They're fun to read. They're fun to watch. I want to see them come back. So this one, Reed and Sue are gone, and Ben and Johnny are kind of left in the aftermath of what has happened. Johnny's become reckless. Ben has become very wallowing until Ben gets a message from Reed about what to do. One of several messages that Reed actually did based on the circumstances. Of course, it's Reed Richards after their death. So he tells Ben he's got to continue to explore the multiverse, gives him a power to do so, and he's got to get Johnny. But Johnny has his own problems because he feels like he's losing his powers. And all this is really being puppeteered by Doctor Doom, of course. So I'm interested to see where this series goes. I hope by the end of it, the Fantastic Four is back. That's what I want to see. I'm hoping that's what we get. And go pick that up because, again, Fantastic Four, the artwork is really good too. Sticking to the Marvelverse, the Mighty Thor number 702 is part of the Death of Mighty Thor storyline. I've never been a fan of Thor, but since the years that Jason Aaron has taken over the character or the book, pure gold. Pure gold. I love it. It's one I don't miss, especially with Jane Foster as Thor, or Lady Thor as we used to call her. When we first got the idea of Lady Thor, and I'm sorry I keep calling it that, I wasn't too keen on it. But then I read the book by Jason Aaron, and of course, it's great. It's awesome, and he continues being awesome. We have Thor and Odin's son and all these characters together to fight Magnog and the end of Asgardia. It's a great read, guys. So go check out Mighty Thor 702. It's good stuff. All right, next up in the world of DC is a storyline that kicks off this week, Super Sons of Tomorrow. So what this is a storyline that's going to run through Superman, Super Sons, and Teen Titans. And what basically it is Tim Drake from the future, who is Batman. We saw him several months ago in Detective Comics come back and wreak havoc there. He's come back, even though, of course, we thought he was gone. And he's dead set on taking out Jonathan Kent, a.k.a. Clark and Lois' son, Superboy. The way I read these is actually backwards. I actually read part 2 before I read part 1, which was my bad. Totally my fault. Not a good thing. But in any event, it's a pretty decent storyline. I love part 1. Tim Drake comes back from the future, and he wants to accomplish a goal. And he knows he's going to have to fight some superheroes to do it. So in part 1, what's the first thing he does? He takes out Batman and Superman so they can't stop him. Which obviously, I mean, I read the issue and I'm like, of course that makes sense. If you really want to take on superheroes and try to be successful at it, the first 2 people you need to make sure you can neutralize is Superman and Batman. So I get that. Really cool. In part 2, which is Super Sons number 11, the first part was Superman number 37. Forgot to mention that. But in part 2, he goes to Titan's Tower where Superboy's hanging out with Teen Titans and Robin. And he's got them locked in. And he's looking to take them out because he's telling them that Superboy will be a threat in the future. And he's there to do something about it. Now, the best part of this storyline for me so far is at the end we find out that this Tim Drake is from the same future that Jeff Johns wrote about over a decade ago in his Teen Titans run, Titans of Tomorrow. It's where the current Superboy, Connor Kent, became Superman, Tim Drake, Robin, became Batman, Cassie became Wonder Woman, Bart Allen, aka Kid Flash, became Flash, and so on. Jeff Johns' Teen Titans run, if you haven't read it, is awesome. It's where I first fell in love with Jeff Johns as a writer, so I highly recommend you go to look at it. The fact that this calls back to something that I thought was a great storyline many years ago, they've got me hooked. I read part 2, and I saw that hook, and I'm like, okay, I'm in. And then I go back and I read part 1, and saw that, like I said, Tim Drake, he takes out Batman and Superman in this issue, and I'm like, that's brilliant. Of course, if you're trying to take out superheroes, you take out Batman and Superman first. Really awesome. So I'm in on this storyline. Super Sons of Tomorrow, part 1 and part 2 are out. Go check it out. It's a nice little holiday treat. Speaking of holiday treats, the last thing I want to talk about today is going to be Batman issue number 37. And everyone knows Tom King has been doing a stellar job of writing comics lately, okay? He's writing Batman, he's writing Vision, he's writing Mr. Miracle. Just overall just doing such a great job with these superhero characters and playing in the superhero genre. Batman number 37 is probably one of the most entertaining comics I've read in a while. So in issue 36, we got Batman and Catwoman, and then Superman and Lois talking about the recent engagement of Batman and Catwoman and what that means. At the end of that issue, they find out they're working the same case. So then once they meet up, they decide they're going to go on a double date. And in this double date, they try to go to a carnival. But what happens is it's a superhero-themed carnival. So at first they're like, well, why don't you guys just put on your costumes? And they're like, no, it's not going to work. You know, we're too recognizable. So what do? They switch costumes. Clark is wearing the Bat suit, and Bruce is wearing the Superman suit. Lois is wearing the Catwoman suit, and Catwoman's dressed like Lois. Of course, Lois isn't a superhero, but Catwoman whispers into the employee's ear, and nobody knows really what she says, but it's Catwoman, so I'm sure she said something that, of course, allowed them to go through. But just an entertaining issue. Oh my god. I love this issue because Lisa and I have our friends, Josh and Amber, who we go on double dates on. We go see movies. Like, we go to Star Wars, Justice League, Thor. Whenever we go to a big film, usually we go with the two of them. We usually go have a drink beforehand, and then we go see the movie. Josh, of course, for those of you who have been listening to my show for a long time and actually know me, Josh is a big Batman fan. I'm a big Superman fan. Of course, we poke fun at each other all the time about the other person's character likeness. This is what I'm getting Josh for Christmas. I had gotten him something small for Christmas yesterday, and I'm like, this is perfect. I have to go pick up this issue in print and give it to Josh as his Christmas gift because it is the perfect thing to get him. I highly enjoyed it, and I'll tell you right now, after this issue, I want to see more of Catwoman and Lois. Those two, the way they did it in this issue, it's a crazy couple. I think it could spur a very crazy friendship, and I want to see more of it. It's a great issue. If you picked up one book in the next couple weeks, well, I don't know what next week has in store, of course, but if you picked up one book this week, this should be it. Go grab it, guys. It was highly entertaining, and I loved it. So, well, that's it, guys. That's all I got. I'm going to go get ready for work, try to go pick up this issue of Batman. Like I said, next week, I'll definitely get a review of Bright out. Hopefully do some comic reviews. I don't know what else. It all depends on how the news cycle goes. But we'll get to it, okay? Until then, hope you guys enjoy your holiday weekend. Get your shopping done. And I will see you next time. Until then, may the Force be with us all.